Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink with another card and video using the Honeybee Stamps Lovely Layers Peony wafer die set. I'm obsessed. I have another video that'll be coming, not sure when, it just depends on when I can edit it, and who knows how many more. I'm legit obsessed. Any of the Lovely Layers sets are beautiful. So many videos. Anyway, I did a video using the set, just die cutting color cardstock. And of course, I want to try something else. So this time I'm going to do ink blending. So I've die cut all my layers. And like I've said in other Lovely Layers videos, everything always looks really overwhelming when you see like all the pieces or all the wafer dies, but they come together like a dream. And yeah, they're fabulous. So anywho, I die cut everything first because I need to see where I'm ink blending. You know, you could ink blend onto cardstock and then die cut it, but that gets a little finicky if you're doing like multiple colors like this. If you're only using like one or two colors, you could probably do it just fine. But for me personally, I prefer die cutting everything first, then doing my ink blending so I can be choosy. And with this, I was being a little extra choosy. And like holding each layer kind of together to see, you know, because what part's going to show up, where I want the colors to go, etc. So I'm just working on scrap paper. I think for this I used my hammer mill cardstock. Ink blending on the hammer mill is fabulous. That smooth texture on the hammer mill cardstock, not only is it great for foiling, but yeah, ink blending. Another option is Simon's 120 pound smooth white cardstock. That's my other favorite for ink blending. Because again, it just takes inks like a dream. Those are my two favorites that I reach for when I'm doing ink blending. And then for the inks themselves, I'm using Simon's Pawsitively saturated inks. I have Peony, which is fitting. Plus, it's just such a vibrant pink. I love it. So I have Peony, Peachy, and Lemonade. And I have them in my little ink stand holders, just so that things aren't sliding around because I'm doing like a ton of blending. And then I'm using my little Simon blending brushes and going with the yellow and the peachy and the peony colors, and just it created this gorgeous like sunset blend. Really, I honestly, I can't get over how these three colors just go together so nicely, and they're insanely vibrant, like on camera and even in real life. Like they look almost neon. Love it. Just love it. I was having so much fun. Anyway, I kept holding up each piece, and like I've said, these come together so easily with pretty much all of the Lovely Layers sets. And I've said this before, you basically go from the largest die cut to the smallest, and everything just fits together just perfectly. Like they're very well thought out. Anyway, I kept holding up the pieces because I wanted, you know, that variation of color. And while I'm like talking about this in the video, it didn't take that long, really. This is a little bit sped up in editing, but even then, it still didn't take that long. And I was also just very much enjoying the process because as these like colors were coming together, I was like, yas. So I was just doing my thing, blending all the layers, holding them all together. You can see I'm like kind of just stacking them there as the flower is coming together. And again, as the pieces start coming together and you can like see the finished product, it's like, oh, okay, you know, I get it. And it's like that with all the other sets, the Lovely Layers sets like this. Once you do it once and you actually see those random weird odd shaped pieces and then you actually layer them together, it's like, oh, I get it now, you know? And once you've done it once with a set, it just comes together so much faster. So I did all my blending, went back and forth a little bit, do a little bit of fiddling, you know, deepen some areas, all that fun stuff. And then once I was finally happy with how everything was looking, I'm just going to start adhering it all together. So super quick and simple. And then once my brain just stopped. This is also the nice thing of using the hammer mill, because even though it's labeled as 100 pound cardstock, it is a very light cardstock. Like I would never use this as a card base personally. But yeah, and even then, even if I was using Simon's 120 pound, like Simon's 120 pound is significantly thicker than this, because people have been asking me about that, about like the bulk, because this is so many layers. Personally, I don't care. I do try to make my cards not super bulky because, yes, mailing and the weight and all that. But one, look at this. Worth it. It's beautiful. But also, it's, I don't know. I just, it's not like I'm layering like 8 layers, 8 A2 panels together. That creates quite a bit of bulk. But these are just different. And for me, worth it. I don't do a ton of layers on my cards. I don't do a ton of bulk. I find, my other ways to add texture, splatter and all the different things. But with these wafer dies and the florals, I let them do their thing. So anyway, with the smaller pieces, these are for the buds. The easiest thing for me, again, because I want the individual pieces rather than leaving, ink blending the cardstock and die cutting, is I just took my Simon Dot Runner adhesive, which isn't a temporary adhesive, but that's basically how I use it, and it works for me. And I just put a little bit of the dot runner on the back of the pieces, and I stuck them to the scratch paper so they're kind of held in place, so I don't have to hold as much with my fingers, and then blend the same colors right over them. I did like heavily speed this up in editing, but it was still pretty quick because everything was adhered down. And I also didn't do like as detailed of the blending as I did on the large one because I wanted the colors, and that was it. And like these are smaller, don't have to worry about it too much. So once these were blended, I just quickly pop them off the scratch paper and then adhere them together. Again, largest to smallest, super simple. And then I've got my leaf die cuts and the little piece for the bud. And in the actual wafered, like the Lovely Layers Peony wafer die set, there's another die that actually you adhere the bud and whatnot to that has the stem. The die set that was sent to me was like a pre-production sample sort of a thing. So I don't have that wafer die. I wanted to mention that because I die cut extra just leaf pieces. Those are the ones that, have like just the stem. And those I use to create my own stem for the buds. Not a big deal, but when you actually get the real, legit set, you get the proper piece for it. And then you just adhere the little bud and everything to it. And it's, again, simple. So that's the only reason mine is tiny bit different. So I just tape these little faux stems that I've made to the back of those little buds. It works like a charm. But once I get the proper die, I'll use that instead. But this works. So, and you can do that with other sets too that don't have stems. Like I think it's the Coneflower set doesn't have a stem. So you can, die cut a different piece or just cut some cardstock. Whatever works, So once I ink blended all the leaves, and for those I had used, was it Celery? Yes. Celery, LIMELICIOUS, and Perfection inks. Blended all those on, and I'd done the same thing. Used the dot runner adhesive to adhere all those pieces down to the scratch paper. And then did my ink blending, done, and then adhered those little, stem pieces to my little buds. And then I decided to be even a little more extra and do a little bit of hot foiling, because why not? So Honeybee has this birthday hot foil plate. This actually coordinates with the birthday wishes. There's the stamp set and there's a coordinating die set. And you could just like heat emboss the sentiment from the stamp set. It's the exact same size, but I had the hot foil plate, so why not use it? So I have my Glimmer hot foil system. It was heating up. I put the little birthday word on there. And then I used some magenta Glimmer hot foil and put that down with the pretty side of the foil touching the foil plate. And then another piece of that hammer mill cardstock, the 2 shims, press my timer button. Once it went solid, I'm going to run this through my Platinum 6 die cut machine. And that's going to press that magenta hot foil into the cardstock, and I didn't realize I was totally off camera when I peeled off the foil, but I'll show it here. Because peeling off the foil is the best part. So apologies for not getting that on camera, but I was just like, ooh. So anywho, after I did that, I blended the lemonade and the peachy inks onto this. Just for a little extra color. Why not? You can blend over foiling. Like I've said in other videos, just go light-handed. One, you don't need to go heavy-handed anyway, especially with inks like this. But go light-handed, and the foil resists the inks, so it's good to go. I just don't like using a lot of pressure, anything like that. because you don't want to like start removing the foil, but it holds up pretty well. So then I pulled out the Delicate Doily card base wafer die. This came out, I forget how long ago. I've used the Stencil, I think, in other videos. But I took the die cut it, and then this stencil coordinates with this wafer die. So you can add, color, and it, brings out the detail. So after I die cut it, I taped it to the stencil. And then I just took that lemonade and then the celery inks and lightly blended those. Like, I just wanted a light bit of color just to give it that little extra, to bring out the detail of this wafer die, but not be too, intense, because obviously I want the flowers to be the main attraction. So after I blended those two colors on, removed the stencil, removed the tape, and then I pulled out my Misty, and I'm going to use some coordinating stamps from that Birthday Wishes clear stamp set. So I just have a scrap of white cardstock here, and I used my anti-static powder tool, and I inked up the stamps with clear embossing ink, and I wasn't paying attention and used too much ink, and I could see it. You can't really see it on video, but like a couple of the words were just turning into blobs. So when that happens, flip the cardstock over. It's got two sides. Did the anti-static powder tool, inked up the stamps, didn't press as hard this time, so I got a proper impression. So then I coated that with clear embossing powder. I'm going to melt that with my heat tool. Again, everything looks like nothing right now. Very boring. But melt it till it is clear and glossy. Once that was done, I'm going to use those three main colors again, the lemonade, the peachy, and the peony inks, to add color to this. And because they were clear heat embossed, they will resist those inks. So the word happy, I just used the peony ink, and then the companion sentiments that I'm going to use on the inside of the card, I just kind of blended all three of those colors together. And then once I was happy with the blend, I just used a tissue to remove any of the ink that's sitting on top of that embossing. And then I used the coordinating little wafer dies to die cut all of these, which Honeybee's been doing that for how many years now. Love. Never thought I'd be someone who is just obsessed with coordinating wafer dies for everything, but especially sentiments. It's just so much nicer because I don't have to worry about stamping things straight. So I originally made my card base white cardstock. I'm going to change that before I finish the card. But my card base is going to be a 5x7 card. So I'd cut it to 10 inches by 7 inches and then scored it at 5. And then I had a panel of white cardstock that was slightly smaller. It was like 4.5 by 6.5, something like that. And that's going to be like my main card panel. So I adhered that doily to the card panel. And then now I'm starting to adhere all the other little elements. The leaf clusters, I just press down because there's still that dot adhesive on there. And once I adhere all the other elements, that glue will press down everything, especially the big, die cut peony. So got everything, fiddled with it a bit. Once I was happy with it, then put the adhesive on the back of the peony and press that into place. And then, of course, I'm going to add splatter. Of course. So this time, I am going to use Saltwater Taffy Distress Paint. The color was just perfect for this card. So I squeezed just a little bit of it onto my palette. Got my little fan brush out. Got the fan brush just wet with clean water. It thins out the paint. It's just a tiny bit, just so I can get a good splatter going. And then, put this in my splat box, tapped the brush over my card front, and got this fabulous splatter, which I then let sit and dry. I forget how long it takes, but it doesn't take very long to dry. While it was drying, I die cut more layers using that same coordinating birthday wafer die and the little happy coordinating wafer die, so that I could stack those together to give this dimension rather than fiddle with foam tape. So I did that with the birthday word. I did the same thing with the little happy word. And then after I adhered the word birthday, the way everything was kind of lining up, the happy word, part of it kind of goes over the petals. And again, I've got that dimension. But the glue hasn't adhered yet. So I just kind of peeled back those two little cardstock layers and just trimmed off a little bit of it. So I've still got the stability on the back half of that little sentiment, and then the front part just sticks to that die cut petal. Hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, got those adhered. And then I've switched to a Simon Says Stamp banana cardstock. Same thing, 5x7 card. I'm adhering those sentiments. I use my little my little T-square ruler that I'm obsessed with because it's just convenient. And yeah, use that to make sure those sentiments were adhered straight, you know. And then I had coated the back of this card front with Studio Caudia foam tape. So like your standard thickness of foam tape. Because why not? Go big or go home sometimes. It's like, yeah, I talk about it like, I don't add a lot of dimension to my cards. And then I'm like, let's add 15 layers and like full thickness foam tape. So yeah, that's a thing. Anyway. I don't know why I bothered even saying I don't add a lot of dimension to my cards in the beginning. I do. Whatever. Not redoing the voiceover. Just is what it is. Anywho, I added bling, of course. These are some raspberry mix jewels from Little Things from Lucy's Cards. So I adhered those, you know, just to tie it all together. And I've got the fabulous foiling and the splatter and just this color combo on these peonies. Just, they're so pretty. You know, love it. I had a lot of fun making this card. And like I said, I will have more videos coming using this set. Hopefully some other lovely layer sets. I'll have links throughout this video, like in the little eye card in the upper right corner. And I'll link to some at the end of the video here too, because I've done several videos using lovely layer sets. And then of course I will also have links to all the supplies I use. You can check that out in the description box below the video, as well as on my blog, and it'll be picture links on my blog. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.